I just saw the Red Table Talk with Snoop Dogg and Jada Pinkett. This is some bullshit. Coming to paperback and e-readers this March, John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get the regular and variant cover editions of John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose this March. Now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, my sister, my frenemy. It's a sister act as the goddess next door and the devilish diva team up in this action-packed Isis series adventure. Get Isis, my sister, my frenemy in paperback and e-readers everywhere. Now, I normally don't use profanity in my videos, but I had to call that so-called interview between your Snoop Dogg and your Jada Pinkett what it actually was. Because what we saw on screen in that interview was not an objective interview to get to the facts. What we saw was a complete emasculation of a black man on screen by a group of black matriarchs. And what these black matriarchs wanted to do was find a way to browbeat this black man into submission and show the world how weak your black man truly is. Because what was done to Snoop Dogg was basically a on-screen mugging by several of these black sapphires, and what these sapphires wanted to do was browbeat and emasculate this black man until he took their viewpoint, again showing the world how weak your so-called black thug is, because what they wanted to do was say that the so-called hardest street black man is so weak that a black woman could practically make him bow and bend his knees. Now, when I take a critical examination of that Red Table Talk where Snoop Dogg traded away his testicles to be put into Jada Pinkett's change purse of her Gucci bag in exchange for white supremacy's dollars, I see how cowardly these females who are a part of the black Hollywood matriarchy truly are. And they are cowardly because this supposed apology is not done face-to-face between Gayle King and Snoop Dogg. No, this so-called apology is done on Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk, and your Snoop Dogg is giving the apology only on the Red Table Talk show, and your Gayle King cannot even be bothered to show up to this whole event. And again, I see that as complete cowardice on the side of Gayle King, because your Gayle King clearly knows she is in the wrong, and because she knows she's in the wrong, this is why she decided not to show up, and she decided to let her girls go out here and handle this business with this beta male. But this beta male, Snoop Dogg, he does not see the big picture on how these women have completely disrespected him, starting with Gayle King, who doesn't even show up to answer for the statements that she made about Kobe Bryant, because had she had any sort of backbone, she would have come and dealt with Snoop Dogg in private and not let this drama spectacle go on. But what she wanted to do was let Jada Pinkett come out here and do her dirty work so that she would not be held accountable in any way, shape, or form. And as Snoop Dogg came on to the Smith residence and had this Red Table Talk with Jada Pinkett Smith, the fix was in from minute one. And what they wanted to do was have Jada Pinkett, her daughter Willow, and her mother gang up on Snoop Dogg using the sheer power of numbers to attack your Snoop Dogg. And because they used the sheer power of their numbers, they were able to pile on the shaming language. They were able to pile on the deflections, and your Snoop Dogg, who was already hobbled by his Hollywood handlers, who told him he needed to apologize for his so-called public image, because they didn't want to alienate the black matriarchy. He was willing to emasculate himself because he thought he was going to be able to preserve his ability to continue making money off of these black females who supposedly go out here and buy his records. But what he didn't understand was that by going out here and making that apology, he didn't gain any respect from those females in the black matriarchy. In fact, he actually lost respect from all of those females because he didn't have the discipline or resolve to stand strong. Because when you stand strong with a female, what happens is they will respect you because you have the courage and the backbone to continue standing for what you believe in. But when you take the beta position and you apologize for things that you know you are right in, you make it where women don't respect you. And what happened was your Snoop Dogg wound up losing respect by apologizing to a woman who didn't even have the courage to even show up to this supposed red table talk. And as these women continued to pile on him at the table, they then brought in video from two more cowards, Yoriana Van Zant and another one of these other females, I forget what her name is, and they continued to pile on the shaming language, further browbeating your Snoop Dogg, who then started talking about his mama. And that was a scene that really got me angry because, you know, he's talking about how his mama taught him to respect women. And here's a guy who's been calling females B's and H's and putting women on dog chains. And he's talking about how his mama, who was in the church, taught him how to respect women. Well, let me tell you something. My mother raised me in the church, and she raised me as a follower of God. And one of the things she always taught me was you treat women with respect, but those women have to respect you first. And that's something your Snoop doesn't understand, is when a woman disrespects you, you do not apologize. No, you as a man stand up and you hard check that female and you let her know that she is not going to get away with this type of behavior. Because when you, the man, take the lead, you have to draw the line on how you are treated. And that's something your Snoop Dogg didn't really understand because he probably came from a single mother household and he didn't understand that a man has to draw the line as to how he is treated. And your Gayle King clearly crossed the line as related to how she treated Kobe Bryant and the Bryant family and how she treated the Bryant family's legacy by asking that horrifically inappropriate question to Lisa Leslie in that interview. That question was a complete compromise of journalistic integrity, and it was all about trying to malign the reputation of Kobe Bryant, a man who is no longer here to defend himself. And it showed again how cowardly your Gayle King was because she knew that this man could not defend himself. Now, Snoop had did the right thing in the first place by calling your Gayle King what he called her, because only a person like that would ask that type of question, because to ask that kind of question, it has complete malice of forethought, and it's clearly the malice of forethought was there, because when I look at that question again, no journalist, as people are grieving the passing of someone, would ask that kind of question. I mean, the critical question I would ask your Gayle King is, we had Kirk Douglas pass away at 103 years old, and would she ask Michael Douglas, his son, and his wife, Catherine Zeta-Jones, about the alleged sexual violence your Kirk Douglas was alleged to have participated in just a few days after this man found out that his father passed away at 103 years old? Would she ask that question of Michael Douglas? That's the critical question your Snoop should have pushed back on, but because your Snoop Dogg is practically been neutered by white supremacy and the black matriarchy and showing the world the place that white supremacy wants the black man to be, which is under the females in the black matriarchy, lower than a pet dog. He didn't have the courage, the backbone, or the stones to stand up like a black man and stand up for black manhood and black masculinity. No, your Snoop Dogg did not have that type of courage to stand up for black manhood, black masculinity, and black integrity. No, he could not stand up for those things because he never understood what it meant to be a man. He was a gangster, but he was not a black man. Because a black man, like myself, he would have stood strong, he would have stood firm, and he would have had the resolve to let your Jada Pinkett know that what he said to Gayle King was not disrespectful, because your Gayle King was looking to disrespect the legacy of Kobe Bryant, the reputation of Kobe Bryant, by asking a journalistically compromised question that was completely inappropriate for an interview of a man who just passed away. And again, this was done with malice aforethought, willfully and intentionally, to malign this man's reputation. That's what a man would stand up for, because if you're going to stand up for black manhood, you stand firm, you stand strong, and you stand in the face of the slings and arrows. And I know from personal experience dealing with the black matriarchy that you can stand firm, stand strong, and stand proud. Because when I wrote blogs like why 70% of black women are single, why real men avoid single mothers, and why single mothers destroy their sons, and why single mothers are predators, I got all of the attacks from the black women, but I stood firm, and eventually those black women backed away because they saw that I was not going to back away from my position. Because if you are a man, you have to stand strong in the face of all of that adversity, not before those women, but because it means you were trying to stand for being a man. And when I looked at Snoop Dogg in that interview, he was a weak, broken, cowed man, and he was brought down to the level of submission by your Jada Pinkett, another disingenuous black female. And she's disingenuous because she is clearly looking to use this interview with Snoop Dogg in order to get brownie points with white supremacists and their mammy handlers like Oprah Winfrey. Because what your Jada Pinkett really wants to do is she wants to take over the legacy of Oprah Winfrey, and she wants to be the next one in line to start taking on black men and start pushing the demonization narrative against black men. Because what she did here was she demonized and emasculated Snoop Dogg in the exact same way your Oprah Winfrey used to demonize and emasculate black men on her show. And what she wants to do is carry the torch of misandry from Oprah Winfrey to herself and continue pushing the narrative that black men are no good, black men are bad, and that the only black men that these women will acknowledge are these broken, weak, emasculated, simp males. And those are the only types of black men they will sit there and acknowledge. Meanwhile, these same women, like your Jada Pinkett, they'll sit there and emasculate a guy like Snoop Dogg. Meanwhile, they won't look at their own past with guys like Tupac Shakur, another lost and confused Negro, or the dysfunctional, emasculated Jaden Smith, who basically is a completely destroyed male, or the deeply disturbed Willow Smith. Again, your Jada Pinkett, she will sit there and talk about how Snoop Dogg is out of line, but won't look at her own dysfunctional house in order. It's all about her getting this legacy where she gets to carry on Oprah's dark and twisted legacy and looking to go on further destroying more and more black men. When I look at that whole Red Table Talk show, I was deeply disgusted by what I saw, because what I saw was a black man being broken down right before my very eyes watching a black man compromise his intangibles of manhood, believing that the crumbs from the white supremacist table were better than his intangibles of manhood, better than his dignity, better than his self-respect, better than his self-worth, and thinking that if he gets this crumbs from the master's table, he will get something of value, not understanding he has sacrificed things that are worth far more than the few nickels and dimes that he gets on these records, or the chance to be a Hollywood celebrity. Because there are things, again, that are intangible to a man that a man should never compromise. And again, no man should ever apologize for something if he, in his convictions, knows that he is right. If a man knows he is right, he does not fold in order to appease a black matriarchy, a subsidiary of white supremacy, and give away his own power so that these women in the matriarchy can have power over him and place him, again, in a position lower than a pet dog. And these same women, after they break you down and put you in that submissive position, they will sit there and talk about how little respect they have for you, and they will laugh at you because they don't see you as someone they take seriously. And sadly, that's what they don't see Snoop Dogg as, someone they take seriously. Instead, they see him as a laughingstock because he has compromised his manhood, he has compromised his dignity, he has compromised his self-respect, and he has sold out all in order to save his own place in white supremacy. But what he doesn't understand is that when white supremacy gets tired of dealing with compromised, emasculated black men, they get rid of compromised, emasculated black men like Snoop Dogg because they don't see them as men. Basically, they see them as less than a man, and because they see them as less than a man, they have no regard for them in any way, shape, or form. Now, I'm deeply disgusted by what Jada Pinkett did to your Snoop Dogg, but again, it's par for the course because this was the woman who encouraged Ayesha Curry to disrespect her husband. And again, she wants to carry on the legacy of Oprah Winfrey. She wants to be the next mammy like Oprah Winfrey, and she wants to continue having power over the black community under white supremacy. And the only way to deal with a Jada Pinkett Smith is the way black men dealt with a Halle Berry, by rendering her irrelevant, by paying her absolutely no attention, and making it where she can go get her daily bread from her white man, and she can go get her crumbs from the master's table. But we will not support this female in any way, shape, or form because she doesn't respect black manhood, she does not respect black masculinity, and she does not respect black leadership. So black men need to walk away from your Jada Pinkett and leave her to her fate. So leave her to her slave masters and let her slave masters deal with her. Just because if she's going to go along with your Oprah Winfreys, your Gayle Kings, your Ava DuVernays, and the rest of these mammies on the plantation, then we need to leave her on the plantation and let her get her daily bread from her white slave masters and let her slave masters deal with her. Now, if you want to see me make more videos like this, you can donate to my Patreon, my PayPal, or my Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. And if you want to pick up some of my books on the SJS Direct imprint, like the ISIS series, the E-Steam series, the John Hayes series, and the Spinsterella trilogy, you may do so by clicking the link to Amazon.com, where you can find all of my books in paperback and Kindle formats. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Coming to paperback and e-readers this April, ISIS, the main event. It's carnage inside of a steel cage as the goddess next door steps in the squared circle against the beast from the bowels of this all-new ISIS series adventure. Get ISIS, the main event, this April.